Hey everybody, it's Tim with Broken Dice. Welcome back to my solo wargaming project number 3. Alright, this is kind of a hypothetical engagement using English Civil War miniatures and the Pike and Shot rules by Warlord Games. I've already posted up 2 videos, and since there was so much action going on, I decided to break the videos up into half, like our rebel contingent was in the last video. Now we're going to do the government forces response to their attack. The rebel forces, as a little review, they had some successes both in shooting and in combat, but nothing was broken and nothing was really, so everything is still in the balance here. So let's get on with this video and let's get started. All right, first off, like always, we're going to roll for our battalion orders. And as you can see here, the right flank will go first, then the government far left flank, and then we'll finish up with the government center. All right, on the government right flank, as far as orders and movement go, the government cavalry charged the rebel cavalry that had kind of got close to the river, but the rebel cavalry have used countercharge. All right, the government commanded shot fire at the storming party at the other end of all the ruins and the enclosures and stuff. They have 3 dice, and they hit twice. The rebel forces were hit twice, obviously. Save 1, take 1 morale damage. All right, combat on this right flank of the government troops. Since both units are charging, they both get the bonuses for hitting, and they get all their attacks. So each one is hitting on 3s with 8 attacks. As you can see on the left in the blue, the government forces hit 4 times, and on the right in the red, the counter-charging rebel forces hit 6 times. All right, the rebel forces inflict 4 damage on the government cavalry, while the rebels take 2 damage, but they win the combat, thus forcing the government cavalry to take a break test. Although the government cavalry did pass the test, they still must retire 1 move. Well, the rebel forces move forward to maintain contact with the government cavalry, who couldn't outpace them, so the government is forced to move 1 more move back and become disordered, while the rebel cavalry are not permitted another move forward to remain in contact. That brings us to the end of the action here on the government right flank. Yeah, here we go. And you can see my new disorder marker over there on the government cavalry with the damage of 4. All right, now we move over to the government left flank. This is a big cavalry battle going on over here. So the government battalion commander orders a charge with supports, and he passes it. And so they were able to charge the rebel cavalry, who again chose to not stand and take it, but to countercharge. All right. And this brings us to my first question in the game, and I was looking it up and I really couldn't find anything about it. Can a unit who is subject to a charge and has units in support countercharge with those support units, or is it just the original target of the charge that can countercharge? Perhaps I've missed it, but I'll have to go and maybe reread through that again. But it was not to do that this time. Because maybe they couldn't see what was happening in front of them and are a little late to respond. All right, since it's countercharge, just like last time, I'll get their all the regular combat advantages to charging, +1 to hit. But the only difference here is the government forces have some support and they get an extra attack, so they will be attacking with 9, while the rebel forces will be attacking with 8. And as you can see from the dice rolls here, the rebels hit 6 times, and the government forces, out of their 9 attacks, only managed to hit 5. Yes, but after the combat is resolved, This is funny. The government forces, they win by 1. They inflicted 2 damage on the rebel forces, while the rebel forces were only able to inflict 1 damage on the cavalry. So the rebel cavalry now must take a break test. A lot of saves going on all those attacks. All right, the rebel cavalry passed their test, but again, because they're cavalry, they have to move 1 move back, and so they did. And as you can see by the black arrow, that middle rank of cavalry there, that is the one that just moved back through. And so the cavalry, rebel cavalry to the front by the black arrow, they had to take a test for disorder, which they passed. Oh, and that red number 2 dice there, that should be back there with that red arrow that's the damage inflicted on that one rebel cavalry unit. Okay, so in this case, the government forces do a sweeping advance, charge into the static cavalry, because on a sweeping advance, the only charge reaction you can make is to stand and hold. I could fire and flee, but I would think that would, I don't know. I chose not to do it this time. As you can see, they have 9 attacks, but this time they hit 8 times. And then out of those 8, the rebel forces were able to save 4. And then coming back at the government forces, they were able to hit them 5 times. But the government forces were able to save all 5 of those attacks, really swinging this combat in their favor. So the rebel cavalry used combat, have to take a break test. Both the unit in combat and the supporting unit tests. I allowed the unit that has got the red number 2 dice. I allowed them to support the charged unit because they were not disordered, even though they had lost the previous combat. They weren't disordered. So I'm not sure if that was the right thing to do, but under these circumstances where they wound up, I allowed them to support. But in the end, it didn't do any good. The original unit failed its break test by a bunch. I think they rolled a 6, but minus the 4 damage, it's a 2, so they were destroyed outright. And then I rolled for the support unit, and they passed it, but again would have to go back one full movement, again going through another cavalry unit, in which they tested, and that's the gray dice down there in the middle. They passed their test for disorder. So yes, the rebel cavalry unit was destroyed, and since that's the only sweeping advance, you can only do 1 sweeping advance, that brings this engagement to an end on the government left flank. All right, now we go to the action on the left center. Now this is the section that's between the 2 copse of trees, kind of in that left center of the battlefield. That copse of trees up there in the top left corner, to give you kind of a reference point of where we're at on the battlefield, is over by where the cavalry action on the government left flank is taking place, and this is just in between the 2 sets of trees. All right, so first off, orders. All right, this little commander down here on the bottom right hand corner, he issued 2 orders over here for his infantry unit, both a pike block and a unit of shot, to move to the left to support the unit that was in pike block that was already in combat, and to help kind of, protect their flank. And he was successful on both rolls by quite a bit. And then over here, he issued another order. As you can see, this in position, he passed his orders by 3. And that unit was able to move all the way around this terrain and come to their final resting position. Okay, the government shot fires on the rebel shot, hitting them one time. The rebel shot were unable to save, and therefore took one damage. Now, the other shooting, I have to break this up into two photos because for some reason I didn't take a good photo of this. You see this rebel red regiment right here. They had just come down off this hill between these two units of shot to attack this unit. They couldn't get in there because mistakenly this blue regiment had moved up so close that they could not fit in there and they could not reach the flank. So they're kind of stuck in no man's land. So that unit that just moved to the right for the government around these ruins, as you can see on this picture to the bottom right, both of those shot units are firing on that rebel red unit right there. Pike block. Okay, the government shot fire on the pike block regiment. Okay, so basically with two of those standard size shot units, they would have 2 shots apiece. Both units shot at that government and both wound up rolling a 6. So those were the only 2 hits out of the 4. But because they're 6s, that unit, even one roll of a 6 would have made them disordered. And so now they have to roll to see if they were to save those hits, and they did. But as you can see right behind that unit up there, there is a disorder marker, so they are disordered. The rebel red regiment pike block is disordered. Okay, now we go back to the combat. Now this takes us back over to the left center. Okay, so in this this is great. The rebel unit had won the combat the last time, so they get to go first. They have their standard 8 attacks plus supports and stuff, but they only managed to hit 3 times, and the government unit was able to save all 3 of them. So there was just I didn't bother taking a picture of that because there was nothing to it really other than poor dice rolling. And so we go back to the government side. Well, they have their attacks, and they were able to hit 5 times, of which the rebel forces were able to save 4 of them, but they lost the combat and now must test for break. Unfortunately for the rebels, even though they lost by only 1, they rolled a 4 for their test, and therefore they are destroyed. This begins the turn in the game, I believe. This right here, this moment when this pike block gets destroyed kind of really tips the balance. This is one of those pivotal moments in every war game that we play, that there's that moment, and I think this is the start of that moment, of that time period of change in momentum. All right, now we go back over to the right center, and here we have our combat between 2 pike blocks. Okay, let's see here. The government, again, this is funny. I can't make this up. With all those attacks for that rebel blue regiment right there in the middle, they had their regular 6 attacks plus 2 supporting, and they were only able to hit 3 times. And the government saved all 3 of them again. So then we turn back to the government attack. They hit 4 times, which you can tell by the white dice behind them. And then the rebel forces saved 3 out of the 4. Again, losing the combat by 1. Yeah, the pike block is destroyed. Again, they rolled they actually rolled a 4, which became a 3 because of losing by 1, and they were destroyed. This makes a big change in the balance of power within the game. So yeah, this hurts quite a bit for the rebel units. If you were rooting for the rebels, they've really taken it on the chin this time. So up to this point within the game, they've lost 2 pike blocks and a unit of cavalry. All right, this brings us to the end of turn 2. Lots of things happened. Lots of things happened this time around. Um, it really turned ugly in a hurry for the rebel forces once they came off that hill. I really thought other than the Red Regiment on that right center not making it into combat, I thought they had a fairly well, you know, plan in place to come down off the hill, hit the units while they're disorganized, and win while you can. Didn't happen. Dice rolls were against them. They weren't as fortunate. The government forces fought back. They were fortunate enough in making lots of saves this turn against the cavalry unit, saving all those hits, not taking any damage at all. And then, especially in the second turn, when to me, I think they should have, but that's why we roll the dice. But that's great. I mean, it's just it's been a fun little experience walking through this, using the different models. I'm just getting models out on the table. Gosh, it's been so long since I've had a game against somebody. But that's it. I hope everybody enjoyed this little walkthrough with it. I hope you're enjoying this series of battles. Battle reports concerning this one battle. We'll see how it goes next time. Initiative roll for Army initiative is going to be very important. If the rebels win it, they have a shot. With basically, it's going to come down to their units of shot, how well they can do. Can they disorder units? Can they keep those units from getting orders to a charge and attack them? If they can do that, then possibly they could hang on. If they can get a lucky break in some of their cavalry on the flanks, who knows? But tune in next time. We'll see. I got to get busy doing that one, and I got to get back to painting some more ECW models, and I will see you next time.